Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. In this episode, we are joined by Emma Alkervi, founder of the CV Guru. In this episode, we'll discuss her business journey, leadership insights, and her expert advice on creating standout CVs and building a strong personal brand on LinkedIn. So, Emma, it's an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So let's get started. If you could give us a little more insights about your personal life and your business journey building CV Guru so our listeners can get to know you a little bit more.
Thank you. Thank you. So I have a degree in HR. Straight out of university, I went and took a recruitment job. And then the market turned in 2008, big credit crunch, and I decided to go and support long-term unemployed people back into the marketplace. And during that time, there was a lot of people that industries had fallen on their knees and they really needed to pivot towards different positions. So I worked in that role in various capacities for a few years. And then I started freelance CV writing after my first daughter was born. And I genuinely thought I knew how to do CVs, but I was able to, really upskill, how I operated and how I compiled CVs because I was exposed to so many more occupations and across international locations and industries. And then when my second daughter was 6 months old, I decided to start up the CV Guru. One, because I was very frustrated at very well qualified and experienced people not being able to secure the positions that I knew they were able to do. And also, I believed having my own business would be flexible around my childcare. And then the CV Guru was born, basically. So now the CV Guru, we are now, I'm just trying to remember, 9 years old, and we have a team of 7, and we work with a broad range of industries across the world, predominantly in the UK. And we do what we say in the tin. We do CVs, LinkedIn profiles, cover letters to position people for the next step in their career. And as time has developed as well, we now work with a range of police federations supporting retiring cops into their next positions as well.
Love that. So could you give us a little more, if you don't mind, if you could elaborate, like why specifically CV Guru, like focused on CV interview skill? Why specifically that niche inspired you to go to that direction?
Yeah, so it was something that I could do on a remote basis, which was very important to me when I first started the company, but also as well as having a really well written and positioned CV really does open up the doors for a lot of individuals. And, I knew and I know other people can take it from there. So if they've got that, that door open through the CV or helping them get to the interview as well through interview coaching, then they're going on and taking the next step. So it was just about supporting people and opening doors for them, really.
I love that. And now it's even more important than ever before because it's so difficult to get jobs now. So my question to you is, when you're building this CV Guru, so what were the challenges did you face and how did you overcome it?
So the challenges I faced probably with the CV Guru was working out when what was right for me in different types of work, because of course I'm a writer and I was offered to begin with. People had their own ideas about what the business should look like. So, for example, I said, why don't you go and work in schools? And it sounds fantastic, but they are going to, school pupils aren't going to be able to afford to pay for CVs, and they're not that focused for their next career move as such and for that market. So there was a lot of trial and error of deciding who really was my target market. And as time has gone on, I've developed that further. So I would say for me, one of the biggest challenges was thoroughly understanding my target market. I probably in the very early days as well said yes to a lot of things that I shouldn't have. Like I did website copy work to begin with. I remember going, oh, well, that's something related, it's writing. But it wasn't, it actually took me far longer to do than somebody, because that's not the type of writing that is like a CV. So I would say that's quite a lot of the challenges. Understanding where to market myself as well was a big challenge too. So of course there's LinkedIn, there was networking events. Some networking events were right for me, some were not. We've done Google AdWords in the past, email marketing, different social media. So I think, and they're probably common of challenges for a lot of businesses when they start up, is working out really truly who is your target market and where on earth do you concentrate your efforts to gain business.
Yeah. And how did you identify what's your target market? Because I think that's quite difficult, and that's like the first step when you're starting the business. So what strategies did you use that helped you to give that direction on what is your target market?
I think it's always learning as you go along and never assuming you know everything. So over time, I priced my CVs roughly the same for one CV. And then I remember I had a inquiry from a really high profile person, C-suite, and they went, "Oh no, you couldn't possibly do my CV. You're not priced like that. You're far too cheap. You're not going to take in the effort and put in it." And I'd done CVs like that before. And I thought, oh my goodness, is that how I'm coming across? I'm coming across as cheap, like on my pricing model. So I added another tier into my pricing model. So I think it's,
Mm.
for me, it's learning as you're going along, as a really constantly analyzing and question yourself, is there anything I could do differently? And, you know, allowing yourself to adapt to that.
I love that. And did you ask for the feedback, or is that something he gave you the feedback? Because so many business or says, "Oh, fill this form and we give you the feedback," but most of the time people don't do it, right? So
Yeah.
how do you get feedback from customers?
So he was on the phone to me and just told me outright that's why he
Okay.
wasn't going ahead. But yes, we do actively ask. Even just now, we ask actively for feedback as well, because it's really important. And at the CV Guru, things can happen, and people might make
Yeah.
mistakes or something might not work out. But our kind of culture is, what can we learn from this? Like, is there a learning point from this, and what can we do going forward? So the way we operated 9 years ago, and maybe our email communications, we've understood sometimes going, well, do you know what? A number of people
Yeah.
haven't understood what we've said. So there must be something we're doing wrong. What can we do to improve that?
Yeah, that's amazing because your business has constantly like improved, and I can see it in the Trustpilot reviews as well. Over 400 5-star review, which is amazing, which I'll come to as
Thank
well
you.
as a question. But as a founder, when we're starting out, there's so many like we are jack of all trades, and we have got so many things going on. So looking back, do you wish you had said more no to projects when you were starting out? And what did those experiences teach you about importance of saying no?
So I think, yes, they did teach me what I was good at, and also I think and it's very uncomfortable when you're a business owner saying no, because your money's not coming through in the way that you're used to. So you're like, oh goodness, well, that's some money. I can take that. But then,
Um,
because it might not be your full area of expertise, you're spending a lot of time on something that you really have to, push out your comfort zone to do, and it's not your niche. And also, I would probably say, not necessarily saying no, but as business owners, like you alluded to there about wearing many hats, you of course have to wear many hats as a business owner, but sometimes it's recognizing where you should seek the help. Because, for example, I can read profit and losses and understand finances, but to me, to go away and do my own accounts, for example, or to go away and try and figure out how to link all my different systems together, I might be able to do it, but it's going to take me so long when I could be concentrating my efforts on business development activities and pay somebody else who can do it far quicker, far better, and far more efficiently than I could. So I would say that's probably the thing for me, is hiring or contracting someone with the expertise that can get the job done quicker, faster and better than you.
And this is so important because one of my other podcast guests said the same thing. Like founders get involved into so many of the basic stuff that they can outsource. So my follow-up question is, how do you know like what tasks we can outsource and what tasks are the ones that we should really focus on?
I think the ones, and don't get me wrong, it's such a challenge when you're balancing, when you've got no money coming in, so you do feel you should be doing everything. So of course money's got to come into the consideration, but I think when you know it's really not your bag and you know it's going to take you a really, really long time, and if you're having to look up tutorial videos and this, that, and the next thing, you maybe should hire help. You know, if it's something that you can get into, absolutely. But I think if it's just genuinely not you're really having to dig deep to find out the information about how to do something, it might be time to seek some support.
And actually, another follow-up question on
That's
this,
okay.
because some founders don't delegate work because they think, oh, I'm a founder, I should be knowing this. So why do you think some founders don't delegate? Is that like an ego thing, or what's the advice for those founders who are struggle to delegate or outsource tasks?
Yeah, so I really struggled to do that to begin with as well because it was just me. My first member of staff was, and she still is with me, um,
Oh, nice.
admin support. It was admin support, and that felt easier because I was really, really nervous at the time about paying out a salary, but I hired her and I actually started making more money because I had someone getting back to the emails quicker than I could, dealing with inquiries, kept me organized with everything, and I made more money having her to support me, and she paid for herself
Yeah.
and more. So it's fantastic. Then I then hired another writer was my next step. That bit I was more wary of because I thought, oh my goodness, what are they get? Do they write like me? What do I do? And that bit did feel highly uncomfortable for me because I had certain ways of doing things and I hope that quality could be repeated. But I think if what I learned was if you develop a really good, robust training plan and have really robust quality standards that you're talking about on an everyday basis and that you're showing people, then it's far easier to delegate because you know everybody is operating from the same set, almost like the same rule book as such.
I love that. Clearly explained. And like you said, you have over 440 Trustpilot reviews, which are all like 5 stars. So my question to you is like, what's your approach to customer service?
So our approach, I would say, that probably makes us different from similar companies that do what we do is we're highly collaborative. You can always get us at the end of the phone. You're not going to be dealt with by robots, or you don't know some people don't even know who's writing their CV. You will have a named person. You can reach out to them on the phone. They will chat to you about your documents before and after, and they will make any amendments that you require until you're completely happy, even if that means you come back in 4 or 5 weeks and occasionally we get people that go, look, I'm not sure. I don't think I've been receiving the interviews like I should be getting here. We'll have a relook at the documents for them. And sometimes there's just a couple little tweaks, or sometimes people have changed and pivoted what they're applying for, but we can sort that out for them. So we would say that collaboration's key, and that's what like our customer service, we're really, really proud of how we speak and interact with our customers.
Yeah, definitely. And do you have an example that you can think of that you maybe went like above and beyond for a customer and the customer was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we treat everybody the same with regards to,
Yeah,
but what we've done before for clients is had somebody that had been working for a really long time in the same company and hadn't really had to do a CV before whatsoever. And they
yeah,
were ideally moving from, they were working for a large company, but they'd done an MBA and then wanted to use a little bit of their academia as well as their consulting experience to try out different consulting opportunities with a blend of both, but hadn't really explored the marketplace. So, if we know people that we can introduce you to, we've done that before. So we introduced chat with somebody who'd done something similar before, and that kind of empowered him to, you know, really understand his direction and what he wanted to do. And then on top of that, we then coach information out of people so that they will have their CV, but sometimes it's not got as many achievements as it should or doesn't have
Mm.
them at all. And maybe it doesn't have the right information to shape that a key achievement as well. And we'll work with the client to coach that out of them so that they're covering the key competencies required for the roles that they're planning on applying for.
I love that. And that is simply above and beyond because some companies don't do that as well. So that clearly explains that. Emma, as an entrepreneur, what leadership lessons have you learned while building the CV Guru and leading a team of CV writers?
I think maybe what I said, like a massive one, like I said before, of don't try and do everything yourself if you can.
Yeah,
Mistakes will definitely happen. There's no way they can. So you will mess up or somebody will mess up, but that's okay as long as you can learn a lesson from it. To me, is the biggest one there. And
yeah,
understand when it's time to slightly pivot the business, to meet market demands about what's going on at the moment. So, for example, with COVID as well, we realised at the time it was really important that people were feeling a bit isolated. They were feeling really uncertain about the market. So at that time, we did a lot of webinars and drop-in clinics, and we collaborated with a lot of similar organisations that were reaching out to that target market. So I think it's sensing when you do see a shift in the market and responding to it accordingly.
mm. And then how do you know like when to pivot and when not to pivot?
I mean, I think you usually see it in your profit and loss.
Yeah,
You know,
fair enough.
you will see, like, in the longer you've been in business, it is really important that you see the trends of what was going on this time last year. And I've had a few business coaches throughout my, time in business, and
Yeah.
what it's unbelievable that by the time you really narrow down on what products that you're doing, the profit margins on each of them, but then looking back on how they've grown over the last few years, you can actually genuinely identify trends in your business that allow you to plan accordingly
Mm.
for it. So you know when your busy times are going to be and when your not so busy times are going to be, so that you can respond accordingly, whether that's marketing or reaching out to a certain client group.
I like that answer as well. Makes sense. And profit and loss is a clear explanation. And and just the follow-up questions on like leading a team of CV writers. So if I have to ask you one of your CV writers, how would you describe Emma as a leader? What would they say? Like what are the key qualities that help you lead a group of CV writers, you would say?
I would hope they would say the I am very transparent, so they don't get a fluffed up answer from me. So they can ask me anything straight, and I'll be very very honest with them, and I'm very pos. I recognise the importance of being completely upfront, so they will always get an honest answer out of me, and I've probably say I'm very fair as well.
But I think you're quite a good listener. I think a genuine person as well. Just to add, as per I
Oh,
know,
thank you.
and I've heard about from other people as well. So definitely. And you did mention it's okay to make mistakes. So how do you like cultivate a culture where it's like okay to make mistakes? Because I think this is a really important question.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have regular one-to-ones with our team. Like I have regular one-to-ones with each team member. They'll comment about what they've done well over the last time that I spoke to them. Of course, speak in between, but during that time. And then there's also a section of what do you feel's not gone so well and what lessons could be learned from it. And we're just literally embedding that into conversations. On a regular
Mm.
basis. Sometimes there's nothing at all. There's nothing that's gone wrong and there's nothing that could be learned, but there's usually
Yeah.
small things, just little tweaks that you think, do you know what, I could have maybe tried that approach, or what do you think about this? And we can come together that way.
Right. So could you tell me again, like, what's your structure for those meetings that you have one-to-ones? Do you first start, okay, how was your day? And then you jump onto the business stuff?
Yeah, so, just an overall catch up. What interesting clients have you been working with in the last month? They'll tell me a bit about that, any challenges you've had as well over the last month. And sometimes it can be about, different clients and they maybe weren't sure how to approach different parts. But other times it can be,
Yeah.
oh, I'm finding that it's taking me a while to get round to doing. I feel like I'm to and froing my emails. So we'll talk about how can we have really focused time, and emails can wait for a couple of hours. You don't need to get back to somebody within 5 minutes of them responding. So it depends on the person because everybody operates in a different way. But times like that I do feel challenged with my time. How can I focus my efforts in a different way? Or it can be things like I've had even just a CV question. I've had somebody that's done a lot of consulting experience. How do I present that in the CV without it going to be pages and pages long? And then we'll move on to what have been the key highlights, what are the key challenges, and then anything about, future progression or different things like that.
Right. If one of your writers comes up, oh, I've made a mistake, Emma. So you just, how do you like approach that? Do you tell them, okay, what's your learning and how can you prevent this from happening? Or do you dwell on that mistake, on how that happened, and then
Yeah.
you walk
Well, I
us?
think I think there's at the point if it's a crisis time or something needs to be sorted, particularly if it's a customer, we just, work straight away, help each other to get it solved. And then we will then afterwards, when times has passed and we've then people are in a better place to reflect about, what could we maybe have done to prevent that, or it's sometimes as well, it's a system or it's our operations, the way that we're dealing with it as well. So sometimes it's
Yeah.
not about the client or the writer. It can be right as a customer service aspect. What could we have done to prevent that because something didn't happen there that should have.
I like that because it's so important to, once you make that mistake, once it's fixed, to go back and reflect. So definitely agree. And now let's deep dive into what makes a great CV/job application. So can you walk us through a before and after example of a CV you have transformed? And what were the key changes and why did it make it such a difference?
So I would say not all of the time, but probably about 90% of the time with CVs that we see when they approach us is they come to us either saying, I'm not happy with the CV I've got, I'm not sure how to write it. And then when you do see it, people have found it very challenging to, one, write about themselves, and also it has turned into just a big job description about what they do. And they don't know what else to do about it. Bizarrely, HR people and recruitment people are, well, it's not bizarrely, it makes complete sense, but they're always the most self-conscious because they think, oh my goodness, my CV needs to be amazing. And but they know that they're just lost in it and they can't see the wood for the trees anymore. So they do feel challenged by it because they feel like they're extra judged because they're in that space. But what we always say, sometimes it's easier just to pass it on to somebody else, and then they're then in the seat of being a critique about it, and that's absolutely fine. But what I would say is, you know, most of the time it's people not highlighting their key achievements. So a lot of shown as their metrics. So for example, take a finance director. Most people could have a reasonable guess as to what they do on an everyday basis, but what strategy have they helped developed? What tech have they maybe embedded that's reduced operating time? What costs have they saved? What support have they given to sales teams to, improve profit margins? And all of this type of activity is what companies need to see, because you need to get a company to look at your CV and think, I need them to come there and do that for me. I need them to come into my company and help me with that. So by showing your key achievements, by putting as much numbers and metrics as you can, it allows people to say, right, good, I can see what skill they can work to. I need to interview them. And then you can take it from there. So I would say that's the biggest one, is people are missing key achievements. The other part is people are not focusing their CV on the jobs they're applying for. So take police officers, for example. We work with a lot of police officers. They have had a 30-year career, usually by the time they come to us. They've worked in many different environments. They could have been in counter-terrorism, they could have been in safeguarding, and they come to write their CV and they're like, what do I talk about? So they just try and do a bit of everything. But as I always say to them, if you'd spent a time doing counter-terrorism and safeguarding and you're applying for a safeguarding role, you're not going to go into all of the skills and experience you've had in counter-terrorism because it's not relevant to the job that you're applying for. You need to really, really focus on the skills and the experience that's relevant to the role you wish to apply for. Because if you're trying to mention absolutely everything to suit
Yeah.
everybody, the key messages are going to be lost and people are going to look at your CV and go, I don't really know what they do and how relevant they are to my job that I'm advertising. So I would say that's the key things are lack of focus on the job they're applying for and lack of key achievements.
Mm. And in terms of lack of achievements, like adding achievements to your CV, do we need to put a separate section in the CV as achievements, or should we embed that based on the job that we achieved that achievements?
Yeah, so normally recruiters like to see what achievement relates to what role. So we normally say,
Right.
list your job role, followed by the key achievements, followed by some responsibilities if appropriate. You can, if there's maybe some from earlier roles that you really want in there, you can have a key
Yeah.
achievement section right at the top that maybe lists your 5 standout key achievements there, and you can maybe swap in and out depending on the job that you're applying for and what's relevant. But I always say keep a kind of master copy of your CV with everything on there, but then to get that focus, make sure that you're focusing on the right key achievements to get into your CV.
And in terms of CV, I think this is a tough question for you now because I think there's so many answers on this one. So, according to you, CV should be a one pager or one and a half pager.
So CV,
I know you get that often.
no, yeah. So CVs should be 2 to 3 pages, but 3 pages is the absolute max. Ideally, because you will have people that have done lots of contracts and things, and it's going to extend past 2 pages. So I don't think it matters as long as the key information's in there, but any more than a 3-page CV, you are going to run the risk of somebody not reading the full entire thing. But I would say most people can comfortably stick to 2 pages.
Okay, super clear. And if you could give us maybe an example of what are some quick tweaks someone can make to their CVs this week to increase their chances of landing an interview without rewriting the whole thing? What are the quick things they can do maybe right away?
So a quick thing I would say, and quite a lot of people still miss it, is you have your profile up at the top, and then some people either have it or don't have it, but if they have it, it's not done correctly, is a key skill section. So look at the job advert that you're applying for. You will see essential criteria or desirable criteria or key responsibilities, and each one relates to a competency. And that should be in your key skills section in your CV. So you should almost be
Mm.
mirroring the job advert so that when somebody is looking at your CV, they look at the key skills section, which is about 8 bullet points, and they basically can look at it and say, fantastic, they're ticking all of the boxes. I'm now going to read
Uh,
the CV in full.
right. So rather find reading and finding the skills and having a separate section down which says key
Yeah.
skills and listing it down. See, that's so smart because when we submit the CV through the scanning, screening systems, it will automatically detect, right? Okay, this person have the skills.
Yes, it helps. It helps, I think, when you're dealing with humans and dealing with computer systems. it definitely helps having the key skill section there.
Amazing. And do you maybe have like a proven methodology of must-haves for a CV that everyone should use?
Yeah, so everybody, the standard layout, I suppose, for a CV would be your profile up at the top, which is an 8 to 10 line elevator pitch that explains your experience and background and the focus of your CV, followed by your key skills. And then if you're in the IT industry, I would have a separate technical skills section from your key skills section. With your technical skills aren't just your key skills. There's going to be other parts that you need to include. Your career summary, which should have your key achievements in it, followed by your education as well. If you are, though, a recent graduate or you've completed something very recently, you can have your education before your career summary.
Right. So I think it's a different one. So you're saying is you start see with your profile, a bit of your, and then you start with the key skills.
Yeah.
And okay, right. Why do you think starting with key skills makes a difference at the top? Because what's all the CVs I've seen, Emma, is usually like their education and experience. So how does that differentiate CVs from the rest?
So the profile is only a few lines long. The key skills
Yeah.
is just 8 bullet points, and it's the second section. And because it's just 8 bullet points almost standing out themselves, the recruiter's eye will naturally go to that section, see that you're ticking all of the boxes, and then go, right, now I'm going to read your full CV. If your key skills are right at the bottom, it's on the second page, they're not going to properly look at your CV. But those key skills is allowing someone to go, tick, 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 fantastic. I'm going to properly read the CV now, because people will naturally scan them initially and then they'll give them a proper read.
Wow, that's so smart. And to all our listeners, if you go to the CV Guru website, there's so many different articles with all of these useful tips. So I highly encourage if someone is applying to check the website out. I'll link it in the show notes as well. So Emma, that's such a smart tip. I wish I had that when I was applying. And this is something that I really want to get your perspective on. So, how can someone use LinkedIn more strategically? So, both as a job seeker and as an employee within the company who wanting to build a personal brand online. Because what I see, Emma, is like someone who gets the job, they stop using LinkedIn. But once they're looking for a job, they reactivate LinkedIn and start using it. So, my question to you is about how can both employees within the company who have a job and someone who's looking for jobs, how can they use LinkedIn more strategically?
Yeah. So I'd probably say a lot of people like that you'd said that don't use LinkedIn until they're ready to find work. And then also it can if you're waiting to that point as well, your employer might become suspicious too that you're looking for positions. But people,
Yeah.
whether you're looking for work or not just now, it's really important to maintain your LinkedIn. So follow companies of interest, follow because you're keeping up to date with industry developments, connect with people that you are working with currently just now, like colleagues, suppliers, clients. And it's not because you might, you're actively seeking for a role, but you are building LinkedIn and a news feed that works for you. So if you are connected with like-minded individuals and companies that genuinely are of interest to you, you then get a quality news feed and you can keep up to date with the market. So when it does come to that time where you are looking at interview stage, you're aware of what's going on and who's where. So it's really important to do that and keep up to date with your LinkedIn. Request recommendations when you can, rather than the obvious thing of people don't ask for them until they're ready to find work and they haven't had one since the last found a job. So try and do that as regularly as you can. And the features of when you actually are ready to find work are you can start connecting with HR people for companies that you are looking for. But there's there's a lot of jobs, of course, that get advertised, and applying online for jobs absolutely does work. And I'm still saying, please do that. But what you can also do is there's something called the hidden job market. So they say that about 80% of the jobs out there are never advertised because a lot of people get jobs through people that they know or through different connections. So if you type "we're hiring" into the search part of LinkedIn, you can then filter it down to location of where you want to work. And then you will get all of the companies that are hiring in that space. You can filter as well with LinkedIn in the free version. You don't have to pay for anything. So if you type in "we're hiring," pop in your location, pop in your industry as well, it allow you to do that. It will then pull everybody's profiles and from those filters that you've put in to who are currently have vacancies at the moment. And that means then that you've built up your knowledge of who's recruiting, can you get connected with them, can you send them your CV? And that really does help. So I would say that's quite a strategic way to find work that might not necessarily be advertised. So if you're frustratingly looking at job boards thinking, oh my goodness, there's nothing, it's a good place to concentrate some of your efforts.
That's massive. And Emma, like if someone who's looking for jobs and they want to build a personal brand, do you think, for example, let's say a person is in finance, and if he starts maybe sharing some finance news or interesting facts or something he read online, do you think that's helpful
I
for their
do.
personal brand?
Yeah, and I think as well, what I think's even helpful, because a lot of people think, oh my goodness, I don't know what to post about. But there's thing on LinkedIn, you're still seen, and it's called micro content that you can even be, if you're following the right companies and the right people, you even commenting on those posts, you are seen by people in that industry as well. So it's still a good way to increase your visibility as well, because you're technically hanging out with the right type of people. So as I said, even if you're not comfortable posting online, it's good to even comment on other people's posts
Mm,
about your thoughts and things like that.
definitely. And then, and what about someone who's got the job now? Like, how can they use LinkedIn?
So I would still do that, keep your visibility up.
Okay.
Still be, if you're dealing with a lot of external clients quite a lot, just make it part of your best practice that you are connecting with them on a regular basis. So when you do need the network, it's there for you, ready and waiting, rather than trying to build it when you're applying for work.
Definitely. And do you have some more tips on your website for how to use LinkedIn more
Yeah,
strategically?
there's
That
lots. The other big thing is with LinkedIn. So some of the tips that we cover are how to announce you are open to work. A lot of people just pop on the banner and then just say, I'm looking for a job in such and such. You,
yeah.
you really should make more of that post, exactly what you're looking for, what some of your key achievements have been, what types of roles that you're looking for, and what help people can give you as well. So there's a template, I suppose, they are ready and waiting for people to use to announce they're open to work, just to make sure that it's getting the attention it deserves. So there's
So
that, as well as how to formulate your LinkedIn profile as well, so it can be picked up by recruiters as well.
right. By banner, you mean is there like a specific group that people can join for all some everyone is looking for a job? Do you mean?
No, so sorry, but when you announce, some people maybe who've been made redundant or are out of work just now,
Ah, okay.
there's the banner around somebody's face that has the green banner that says open
Oh,
to
right,
work.
right, right.
So yeah, so
Yes.
when they put that on, there's better ways to announce it. So we've got a template on there
Mm,
that people can follow so that they can make sure that it's effective as possible.
clear, clear. Thank you so much, Emma. Like, honestly, this episode has been full of golden nuggets for anyone who's applying for jobs and who has a job. So I'm definitely going to be reading some of your LinkedIn newsletters because that will help me build my personal brand better. So, Emma, I really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you once again for being
No,
a
thank you for
guest.
having me.
My pleasure. And to all our listeners, make sure you comment below what's your biggest key takeaway or your golden nugget, or maybe what one thing you're changing on your CV. So comment below for me and Emma to see. And I'll link Emma's all social media handles and the link to CV Guru website so you can check the newsletters. And thank you once again, Emma.